Welcome into this edition of Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. It is an edition of Inside Tiger Football that now looks towards the second season, the postseason. Always exciting, puts a smile on everybody's face with an opportunity to do something big, right? And experience is one thing that these kids are going to get regardless of how far this stretch can go. But on top of that, it's just fun for everybody. It's fun for the fans. It's fun for the community. It's fun for both communities getting a chance to come together and compete at one of the highest levels in the state as well. And before we get into that, let's just take a deep breath and look back at what was this final regular season game against Westmore. And we'll start literally right at the first moment that we can within scrimmage, and that's St. Matthews Boudreaux taking it back. I believe the first kick return of the year for this team all the way back. And you just kind of take a deep breath at that moment and say, okay, that's one. But there's a lot of football left to be played tonight. And I think that really made myself and Mo notice just the energy on the bench, and it really kind of never let up all night.
Our kids really embraced, it was monsoon, to start the game.
Yeah.
We knew it was going to be rainy. We didn't want to move the game to a different day. We wanted to play in it. Whether our kids believed it or somehow we convinced ourselves of it, but we embraced it and believed that we were built for that kind of environment, those kind of conditions. And so we won the toss and took the ball. The intent was just to go score. Obviously, we're trying to score on every kickoff return, but you don't know if they're going to kick it out of the back of the end zone or if you're even going to have that opportunity. But obviously, Zane hit it hard and hit it right. But the blocking up front to open up that crease was executed at a high level, and then he did the rest and put it in the end zone. Got us off to a great start.
Yeah, talk about after the start as well. Decisions to take the special teams to another level. You had a kind of a traditional onside kick there, then really kind of a squib right at the front line of that kick return unit as well. Just taking advantage of moments like that. I don't think, at least myself in person, have seen 3 recoveries by a kicking unit in one game, much less a half. Talk about just, 1, the decision-making behind those decisions, but 2, just really what that did for your bench and what that did for really the attitude that you wanted to implement as a coaching staff into what your players were going to approach with too.
Well, we've had it on the call sheet. As soon as we get up in a certain scenario, we wanted to do a surprise onside, and I think I've had it on the call sheet for 7 weeks. And this was one of those first moments that I felt like the time was right. Guys executed it perfectly. We covered it up. So we took the ball after the toss. Obviously, the dagger right there out the gate with the kickoff return, recovering an intentional onside. And then after that, it was, stuff that we've done throughout the year. Irvine is really good at that kind of that squib watermelon type of kick. And if he can hit a frontline guy, that's, turns into an onside. And so he was able to do that 2 times after the actual onside kick, and we recovered all 3 of them. The kids went there to go win. They embraced everything about what we were doing, but it's definitely a shot of adrenaline and energy when those good things happen. And so we just took full advantage of it.
Yeah, let's chat about, of course, in this first segment, a little bit about the offense. And I loved, 1, the execution at the end of the day, but ball security at times at the beginning portions of football games this year have been an issue. But ball security in a game like this seemed to almost ramp up a little bit with the intensity of being careful with the football. It's tough to do so on a night like that. And just talk about how difficult it can be to have good ball security on a night like that, but how much you guys are emphasizing that too.
Definitely emphasize it nonstop. Work on ball security every day. You add the element of the rain, downpour of rain, and that gets more challenging because those balls are absolutely soaked, and you can't, there's really no way to keep a dry ball in there. You saw Westmore struggle with it. Their opening offensive snaps, they were having a hard time even getting the snap. Our guys just did a great job. I really think they embraced what we were walking into. They've done an unbelievable job all year of preparation and focus and being in tune with what their coaches are trying to guide them to. And this was one of those games that we just did it way better than the opponent did.
Looking at a guy like Roberson, I almost felt like he was a perfect running back for a game in conditions like that. He's very patient, especially with the footing being difficult on a field like that for, 1, the offensive line, but 2, anybody carrying the ball out of the backfield. He's a patient running back that just hits the hole when he gets his chance. Talk about using him in that game and just methodically, 1, eating clock, but picking up yards and eventually punching it in. He had himself a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah. I don't know if he's suited for the weather or it's just Octavian being Octavian. I mean, he's always a big part of our game plan. Try to get him the ball in a bunch of different ways. I think he had a receiving touchdown also down in the red zone. He's just a special, gifted athlete, and when our guys up front are executing the way they were, not only does he have a big game, but so does Corey Sango, and so does Caden Lawless, and Jeremiah is able to keep his jersey clean, and all the guys around are able to make big plays.
Yeah, I think at the end of the night, we were going to pick whoever got a receiving touchdown as a winning lottery ticket, maybe pregame. Turns out there was more, I believe, receiving touchdowns in that game than rushing touchdowns at one point. And just talk about that, being able to use maybe the passing game on the sheet when it wasn't necessarily expected to be used as much. You guys not only used it, but used it effectively, and a lot of bodies getting into the end zone. Garcia's touchdown was clutch at that moment just to get that extension in the second half, or rather the first half, I believe. And everybody was involved in the pass game.
Yeah, there in the second quarter, there were some really good things that happened. The rain let up a little bit, kind of gave us an opportunity to take advantage of some things that we had planned for. We ran I think it was a boot, and a guy came out of coverage, and so Zane found himself wide open in the end zone, and Jeremiah found him for a touchdown there. Like we said, Octavian had one on a back out of the backfield going down the numbers, and Jerm had to move a little bit, and but eventually found him, and then Octavian made like three guys miss after he caught it and put it in the end zone. My favorite one was Jaden Garcia. It was either a 3rd and long or maybe even a 4th and long, and it was a clutch throw, a bender over the middle by Jaden Garcia, and not only was it a great catch, but then for him to drag the defender into the end zone and get the touchdown, and thrilled for him, obviously thrilled for our team, but him individually, watching him celebrate and all the guys celebrate with him on the sideline when he came over was awesome.
Yeah, I think one last question that I think not just me, but a lot of people have before we wrap up this segment is approaching a football game like this, pregame, through the game. One, you're soaked in warm-ups. What is the preparation from an equipment staff standpoint to a player standpoint to a coaching standpoint of keeping guys dry as best as you can, to making sure that equipment might get exchanged out as much as you can? This isn't maybe Oregon with a Nike deal per se by any means. You can't just grab a brand new fresh pair of gloves anytime you want off the shelf. But at the same time, is there any kind of approach to make sure these guys are staying dry as best as they can?
Not the players. You got to just embrace it. And so I think knowing that we were going into a weather game, we were talking about it all week. We got ourselves excited about it. Like I said earlier, we convinced ourselves, whether it's true or not, I think it is true, that's playoff weather. We are built for the playoffs. We're a running team that has the ability and the dynamics to be explosive in the pass game, in addition to being a running team. Defensively, if you can't throw the ball, we're going to eat you up in the run game. And the weather oftentimes in the playoffs force you to be a run team. So we convinced ourselves, and I think it's true, but we definitely talked about it all week. And then from a management standpoint, it's a lot of towels. It's a lot of trying to keep the footballs as dry as you can, extra bags, trash bags, trying to keep things covered, your electronics and whatnot on the sideline. Those ball boys working their tails off, getting, a dry ball in anytime they'd let us. But a lot of work, but, it was a blast. And, I'd love to play in another one like that again.
Yeah, no doubt. There's fun in the sun, and then there's fun like last Friday night. We'll get to the defense when we do come back on Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. We'll break down what was a beautiful performance and some success leading into what's a big playoff game. We'll be back on Inside Tiger Football.
Hey, Broken Arrow fans! Score big with TTCU Federal Credit Union's School Pride Card. Each time you use your card, we donate to Broken Arrow Public Schools, adding to the $2.5 million we've given statewide. TTCU, where members are raving fans.
For families who like to build their wealth while staying liquid, we have flexible rate CDs to keep your funds working hard, even when you're not. First National Bank of Broken Arrow. The right balance.
Welcome back to Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. Defense is next up on the slate to chat about. One, it was right out of the gate, a defensive effort that you wanted out of your group. At the same time, I love the fact that maybe early in the game, Westmore didn't help themselves, but as they figured out snapping the football, which was, no insult to them in a sense that it was a tough night to snap the football right out of the gate, but this defense, one, took advantage of that, but two, when they did clean up their game on the Jaguars side of things, it didn't really help at the end of the night. Talk about your defense playing in those conditions as well. And you talk about being a team that's built for the playoffs and weather like that on the offensive side of the ball, but you got to, of course, match that with the defense.
No doubt. Those guys came to play. It was a new system going into this season, and they have slowly gotten better and better and better. As far as alignment and assignment, we were exceptional. Our swarm and run to the football, there were so many pictures on film where there's 11 guys around the ball carrier. We tackled really well. I think that's been our greatest weakness up to this point, and our guys got them on the ground, got them on the turf over and over and over again. I was ecstatic about the way our defense played, and they did it for 4 quarters, so that was the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think one, you look at a guy like Cole Lamont, he's involved in the action a lot, but just this linebacker core altogether seemed to get after it against the Jaguars, stuffing what was a run game that I think had an anticipation of making an impact in the game that day. They certainly wanted to get to the run game. It was obvious that they did. I think if it's a sunny and 70-degree day, they're wanting to get to their run game with what we've seen on film too out of them. It helps them establish their game, but it just didn't happen.
And credit to our guys for that. We had a great plan. Cole Lamont was Cole Lamont, like he is week in and week out. Nathan Martin's playing with a cast. Technically looks like a club, no fingers,
right, yeah.
and he had a great game. Gabe Manning playing some nose guard, had the best game he's had all year. We got Caden Moody in on a few snaps, and he's destructive. I could keep going. Ricky Fernandez has made a huge impact over there. Jason Johnson had a great game. Nick Miles had a great game. Dagan McCleskey. John Brohl is just turning into one of our most complete football players on both sides of the ball. I could go on and on, but they were aligned. They executed at a high level. The swarm and running to the football and then getting guys on the turf was exceptional.
I look at a game like this, too, and it was a chance to get maybe some of that second team in on both sides of the ball. Talk about the depth that you saw in your program, of course, at the end of that game, but leading into what is the future. When you play in some of these tight games, or maybe you're coming from behind, or you're in a back and forth game where you have to pull away late, you don't get a chance to see maybe team 2, team 3 on the field. You got an opportunity to make those decisions a little bit against a team like Westmore. And what'd you see out of your depth?
Yeah, in the fourth quarter, we had a significant lead, so we started subbing our guys in. The irony is that our ones are probably younger than maybe our 2s or 3s.
Sure, yeah.
But it was awesome to be able to get a bunch of other guys in.
Right.
Our second defense that went out there once we made a complete substitution still was phenomenal. I was so pleased with the way we were tackling the football. I think Barlow had like 3 or 4 tackles in a row out there in space. Keaton Johnson coming up and tackling a receiver after a quick reception. Guys still flying around and making great plays on defense. Offensively, we didn't execute as cleanly as I would have liked to once we got our subs in, but I was ecstatic that we got to get guys in. And Jeremiah even, we're trying to run victory to end the game, kneel the game out. And I think it was Jack Gardner, maybe Preston Carter. I don't remember which one we had in at that moment because they were rotating series.
Right, yeah.
We had one of them in to did the first victory kneel down, and Jeremiah comes running over to me. He says, let's get Titan Parker in there. I said, well, go find him. And he went and grabbed him, and we got to put Titan Parker in to take the last snap on victory there, which was, to have that guy, the leadership he brings as a senior, that was cool to be able to get that moment.
Yeah, that was fantastic as well. We're looking down at our sheet at that point of the game, making sure that we got numbers right at that point for sure, and it was fun to see right at the end. Your message, maybe whether it be in the locker room or just getting on that bus for your team as everybody came back. Everybody got to see what everybody else saw on the field.
Right.
But just kind of your message privately to your team, what did that look like in paraphrase? In what was the last regular season game for all of those seniors, guaranteed, but just the last game with this group this year before you take on what is season number 2, the postseason?
A lot of dancing and celebrating first. One of our captains, Caden Moody, kind of beat me to the message as we were leaving the field. He swatted me on the rear and said, "Get in, get hot." We did both of them.
No doubt.
And that's what we had been talking about, for weeks now, is get in the tournament and then make sure we're hot. We're playing the best football we possibly can going into the second season, going into the tournament. And so that's what we said after we were done singing and dancing. Said, get in, get hot, and you checked both boxes in one night. So here we go.
There you go. We'll get to our player segment when we do come back. We've got a chance to talk to Octavian Roberson and Jason Johnson here on the segment today. Then we'll wrap things up looking ahead to what is the playoffs here on Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib.
Shields is now open at the Woodland Hills Mall in Tulsa, and we can't thank you enough for the warm welcome. Whether you love the great outdoors, sports, or fashion, Shields has something for everyone. Our passionate and knowledgeable Shields experts are excited to welcome you to explore thousands of brands and premium products. From our golf simulator, service shop, archery lanes, and more, we're ready to get you fitted with the best gear for you. We can't wait to see you at Shields.
Introducing QT Pay, the easiest way to transform every trip, every treat, and every gallon into instant savings every time you pay. All within the QT app. QT Pay. It just makes sense.
Welcome back to this edition of Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. Exciting to have a couple of players on here that we haven't had a chance to speak to this season. Octavian Roberson, running back, and of course, free safety Jason Johnson as well. Thanks for being on the show, guys. Looking at what is now playoffs for this group coming up next. You guys have had a long season, and you guys have been very impactful throughout the year. That's why it's exciting to kind of have you guys on at the end of the year. We get to chat about, what your perspective's been like for what this campaign has looked like at the end of it all. And we'll start with you, Octavian. Just what has kind of the workload been like for you at the running back position, getting a lot of carries this year and some meaningful minutes for sure for what is a great high school to play for?
I just take it step by step, and try not to rush things. I try to take it slow and try to learn the process of trying to build to be that guy on the team.
Yeah, Jason, I mean, on your side of things, brand new defense being implemented this year in total with Coach Hawley as well. What's that been like, just getting to know him as your defensive coordinator? And then on top of that, just growing as a unit as the year goes along, trying to fine-tune everything coming up on a playoff game?
I just think that Coach Hawley is a great guy. He believes in all of us. Since January, we've been working at it. The growth is amazing that we've had throughout the season. The tackling's got better, everything. I can't believe how far we've came.
I want to go all the way back and chat a little bit about playing out of district and then in district, right? I mean, this program prides itself on making sure that, iron sharpens iron in a sense of really tough opponents early on in the year. You've got Fayetteville, the Arkansas State champs. Springdale Harbor was no easy task as well. And then you kind of move right into a district that is about as difficult as it gets in this area of the state of Oklahoma. And, what has your perspective been like, maybe chatting, with your teammates and your coaches, emphasizing it? You guys play in one of the best areas, not just in the state, but really in the nation right now at the high school football level. And what's that competition been like, and how's it helped you guys grow as players?
It helped me grow a lot, since from playing last year as a freshman.
Right.
It really, it really helps you, understand it quick because, it's best competition, best guys out there. And, you just have to learn quick.
Right, yeah.
It really helps you a lot with, going through all of it. Learning from the best guys. You're playing the best guys week in, week out. You know that you're going into a game that could really help you become better.
Yeah, looking at how tough you have to be to stay healthy throughout a season too, that's always difficult. Talk about maybe some preparations you guys take as players, or maybe recommendations from your coaches on how you guys have to take care of your bodies. I mean, no easy task. You're putting your body on the line, not just on game days, but throughout the week so that you can get better. And what's that process been like? And, you're trying to stay as healthy as you can for a playoff game, right?
Yeah. I would say Wednesdays and Thursdays, take an ice bath, Yeah. You got to get the body right. And then Thursday, stretch out, stretch a lot, drink water, and then you're ready for game day. That's for me.
I go in and get treatment every day. So that really helps me out with Dan. He's a great guy. He helps me out. And then before every practice, everything, I get everything taped, so I make sure I'm good to go. That's really it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think really the stretching side of the industry of sports, in a sense, is really underrated. And, we've got a day, of course, like today. We're going to have a signing day with all these athletes around Broken Arrow as well. And your time at Broken Arrow, you guys have seen other high schools. What would you say that this school compares as, to maybe some other areas? And what's your experience been like, specifically being not just an athlete, but a student here at Broken Arrow?
I would say the people, it's a completely different community than a lot of different schools. And I would say, like, the people are more outgoing and more supportive than a lot of other schools.
Yeah, well, Octavian said. And then the teachers are really great, too. They push you. They make sure to push you to get good grades and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, Broken Arrow, something about this district and something about this school. It's the largest high school in the entire state. And so you got a lot of competition, in the classroom as well as, of course, on the field. You got a lot of different athletes playing. Is there maybe a sport here at Broken Arrow that you guys are already a part of outside of football, or would maybe want to be a part of and think you could be good at down the stretch, just knowing your athletic abilities?
I do track, but, like, I kind of want to get into basketball.
Okay,
because
yeah.
I haven't played basketball since 7th grade. But I'm, like, kind of getting back into it, just playing at the park and stuff. So
Right, yeah.
I played baseball for 10 years, so I like baseball. And then a lot of my friends wrestle, so that looks fun too.
Yeah, wrestling, Oklahoma is a very underrated state as far as wrestling. And I think everybody here in the state of Oklahoma might not underrate it for sure. But looking at you guys in the classroom and outside of the game of football a bit, what is your favorite class? Like, that's a question we ask some kids, but it's a real question, because a lot of times your favorite class might lead to what you want to do with your life when you're out of school, for sure. Some interest that you have in the classroom can lead to, career paths at the end of the day. And is there anything that you guys really kind of hone in on when it comes to getting your grades done and schoolwork? And then maybe what are some things, if you actually had a free day, which during season you guys don't really have free days, right? Even on the weekends, what's something you guys like to do outside of the game?
I would say my favorite class would be history, just because it's really interesting learning about from the past and stuff.
Yeah.
And if I had, like, a free day, I'll probably just play the game, just stay at home. Simple.
Relax for the first time in a while, right? Yeah.
My favorite class is forensics. We do a lot of labs.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty fun. And then what I do outside of football, I like to be active no matter what. I don't like to just sit down and do something. So I like to get up, go play a different sport, go do something.
Yeah, stay active while you can, for sure. The joints start to go away as time goes on. Guys, looking at this playoff game, it's an incredibly important one for the program, for the state, the area. Deer Creek's on the slate. Just talk about kind of your own mental space right now with approaching that game, and maybe something as a team you guys are really wanting to emphasize about your game that is leading you guys into a big moment.
Really just focusing on us and doing our job is what the whole team's just really focusing on, and focusing more in practice, because we just got to lock in for this big upcoming game.
Yeah.
Yeah, do our job, be really physical on the defensive side, and I feel like we're going to come out here with a win.
One last thing that we want to have from you guys is just a message to the fan base here. They've been with you all year long going into this game. Of course, at the end of the day, win or lose, what's that message to the fan base that's been there for you guys all year long, and you're putting it on the line here on Friday?
I would say thank you for all the support, and win or lose, we're still going to,
Still going to show out, right? At the end of the day, it's a mindset where locking in's one thing, but two, the fans got to lock in too, right? They're going to be traveling, they're going to be there, and they're going to be supporting you guys. And I know the defense, like you said, playing hard and locking in, Jason. The message to the fan base has been that all year, right?
Yeah. It's just really the fans. They're amazing. They keep us going. The support is great. I'll just say thank you, really.
Well, there you have it. Of course, that is Octavian Roberson, running back, and of course, safety Jason Johnson. Prior to what is the biggest game of the season, playoffs, we'll get to the final segment with head coach Josh Blankenship in just a moment. We'll be back here on Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib.
Tulsa Bone and Joint, Northeast Oklahoma's sports medicine experts. We are pleased to help you and the athletes in your life with a number of surgical and non-surgical options. Tulsa Bone and Joint is proud to serve as team orthopedist for local high schools such as Broken Arrow, Owasso, Sapulpa, Cascia Hall, and Bishop Kelly. We're also proud to be team orthopedist for FC Tulsa. Tulsa Bone and Joint, moving life forward.
Welcome back for the final time here today on Inside Tiger Football. Playoffs are here. We've chatted about what led to this moment. One, all year long, but two, a little bit today, of course. And now we get a chance to look into your head as far as prep for it, because you know your opponent, you know your matchup. It's Deer Creek on the slate, and it's a team that has had a really tough schedule coming down to the stretch of their season. They've struggled with that schedule as well. Maybe an opportunity to see some weaknesses there, but I know you, and you're focused on how this team can be the hottest it can be going into whoever you're playing in that round number one. Just talk about the deep breath that you and your staff took coming into a week like this, and what that's looked like so far.
Yeah, it wasn't a relaxation deep breath. It was a satisfaction deep breath. Deer Creek is a winning program. I know those coaches pretty well over there. Worked with a couple of them in the past. It seems like we're playing another Division I quarterback every week. This one's special. They've got a couple really high-level receivers, and that's what makes that offense go. Defensively, very dynamic on defense. Excellent tacklers, hard hitting, weight room junkies. I mean, it's evident those guys are strong and powerful, and they're very sound in what they do. Scheme wise, very well coached and executed at a high level. So that's our challenge. We got to go on the road, go to their place. They get to host because they're a higher seed, but we like playing on the road.
Yeah, I look at playoffs for high school students and true student athletes. These guys have to be just like college athletes have to be. There's a lot going on in life, but this is life in the moment, and that's that playoff game. That's your whole life. That's the approach you want to take in those moments. But I look at a coach like you who's been in the playoffs before and has seen how players handle that. What are some things that maybe change about players that is a positive going into the playoffs, whether it be just that extra gear? And then maybe what are some things you've seen that have changed about players that is really for the negative, maybe changing who they are as a player just because it might be the playoffs and trying to stay within their job and within their self? What's that experience been like trying to make sure you get the best out of guys?
Well, I guess the negative could be something we've talked about before is a guy presses too much and tries to do extra, which sometimes extra makes a guy go outside of his job. And anytime you go outside of your job, you compromise what the scheme is. I haven't seen much of that in weeks. Our guys are dialed into doing their jobs. And then you have a game like we just had, and they see the success that doing your job brings. As far as going into the playoffs, I think the urgency is a little bit more real. Those seniors, it's more real for them all season than it is, a junior or sophomore. But now that you're at the point where you win or you go home, it's just more tangible. So we've always had great practices this year. This week's on another level. Just the sense of urgency that it's with it or on it is what we talk about. So win or die.
Yeah, I look at maybe some of the names that are on this roster as well that have been a part of won this program in a big way. But looking at last year's playoff game, it was a close game. Could have gone either way at one point in that football game for sure. But at the end of the day, it was a taste in the mouth of some of these guys that they're wanting to get out of and kind of rewrite their own history here in year number 2.
Yeah, you always want to win your last game. And if you've been on the other end of that, which most teams are, there's only one that gets to win it all. There's that point where you look up and you see zeros on the time of the scoreboard, and it hits you that it's over. Last year we had a chance to win that game on the road against Norman and didn't get it done. And those guys that are seniors now, or maybe are juniors and played as sophomores, they remember what that feels like, and nobody wants to feel that.
Yeah, I have been impressed with what the underclassmen have done with your team this year. That's been kind of a point that we've made all year long, but they get to grow up quite a bit in just a 48-minute game here. Maybe exponentially more so than they've done all 10 regular season games, and I bet you're excited for that too.
I am, and you've seen the progression. Those sophomores that are playing aren't sophomores anymore. Corey Sango, in my mind, is not a freshman anymore. All our junior starters, in my mind, they're seniors now. So they've got 10 games under their belt, not to mention fall camp, scrimmages, whatnot. We say new season. Well, these guys are growing up, and you see it in how they're preparing. I'm anxious to see it on Friday night.
I look at this bracket too. It's been kind of fun to look outside of just the matchup for Broken Arrow. You've probably taken a peek at it as well, in a sense. Know what that path might look like down the stretch, just at a glance. But what are your thoughts on 6A football here in this northeast area of the state? Because there's some shakeups, but at the same time, there's probably a lot on there that I think a lot of people expected. I think Edmond Memorial is a team that can make a big splash. Of course, Norman can make a big splash. I think kind of people look up and go, oh, I forgot that Norman has basically lost, I believe, only one game this year.
Beat Bixby.
Yeah, and they beat Bixby. Jenks is, Jenks is Jenks, and they're still going to be right there in the mix. And what are your thoughts just on the bracket this year and what it's kind of going to look like?
We talk about this in the office at times, but it's almost like all the teams in our league this year, the parity this year is unbelievable. But all the teams in our league this year, it's almost like if they're going to win a state championship at their school, this is the year.
Yeah.
Senior leadership, talented quarterbacks. Edmond Memorial, this is their year. Norman, this is their year. Even Edmond Santa Fe, who didn't make the playoffs, had one of the most talented defenses we've seen. Had a running back that led the state with 1,400 yards rushing. He's got 500 more rushing yards than anybody else.
I think a lot of these playoff teams wish they could have gotten them at some kind of trade deadline or something.
No kidding.
But you can't do it. So.
It's wild. It's been one of the most interesting years as far as the parity. And it'll be interesting to see how this thing plays out.
Yeah, one last thought about your team going into this playoff game, maybe something that's most important to emphasize to kids prior to hitting the field as well for what's going to be a fun one on Friday night. Everybody's going to be tuned in, whether they be there in person or, of course, watching on ArrowVision, and what your outlook is on a game against Deer Creek and their identity a little bit.
Routine. We know how to pregame prepare. We know what we've got to do in-game, and so nothing has changed in that sense. Obviously, there's a sense of urgency that's boiling up, but trying to keep things as routine as possible. Practice schedule's the same, team meals the same, travel routine's the same, pregame will be the same, and it's another game. Now, there's high stakes, but emphasizing that we're going to go do us is always the message. Go 1-0. We're not even worried about the bracket. Go 1-0, and then we get to earn the right to play another one.
There you go. Deer Creek, in some of what you've seen from Deer Creek this year, they've had their major success story, especially earlier in the middle portion of the season. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've struggled as of late for sure, but they're a good football team. You know that, and that's something you throw out the window, I assume.
Yeah, they haven't struggled. The teams they lost to were Jenks, Bixby, and Norman.
Yeah.
Those might be the three best teams in the whole league right now. So those are their only losses.
It's kind of like you get a chance to play playoffs with a freebie in a sense. Sure. If you're a team like Deer Creek, you drop that first one, but hey, you might see them again and you've learned a lot. And so that's why I definitely say it's almost like you have to throw that out the window. They're struggling, but they played one of the hardest schedules to end the season that anybody has here. Yeah,
I think they literally finished with those three teams and played them well. Were physical matchups, and they came out on the short end. They were also down their best receiver. He didn't play in those 3 games. We expect him to be back. They're a very, very good football team, but we love the matchup. We think we match up well with them.
Well, we'll get a chance to see that, of course, on Friday night. It'll be an opportunity to take on Deer Creek. First round of the playoffs. Second round, of course, we'll preview that if BA is able to get there. You'll have to tune in just a little bit early for that game as well. We'll have some pregame breakdown on what the playoffs will look like, the whole bracket, as well as this matchup in particular on ArrowVision. Of course, I want to thank head coach Josh Blankenship for being on the show. It is a mentality of 1-0 this week as the playoffs will start. This has been an edition of Inside Tiger Football brought to you by Rib Crib.